This time on Dirty Side Gets Down, the Nova gets an engine.
Dirty Side Gets Down, you'll pay for the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
So if you're new here, this is my 74 Nova. It's kind of a test bed for work and some training for customers and things like that. To start with, it's getting this small block 350 with 700 R4 transmission. It's going to just get a basic carburetor, go on the dyno, see what kind of power it makes. Maybe take it to the track. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to get there with it carbureted or if it's just going to go on the dyno. Then after that, it's getting a Holley Sniper. With the Sniper, it'll go on the dyno again, and then it'll definitely go to the track with the Sniper, see what kind of difference it makes. In the process of installing it, I'll make a lot of how-to videos for our customers, for our company website, or for our company YouTube channel. Then from there, it's going to get a turbo and go to sick week. That's the plan, at least. Maybe 6 summer. We'll see how everything's work out. So with all that out of the way, let's get this thing stuffed in there. Maybe get it to fire up this episode. Alright, so engine is in, pressure washed now that I could get it outside in the dirt where I couldn't with the engine hoist or an engine stand. Doesn't look that great, but it's cleaner. But now, we had something show up today I want to show you. A little bit of a hack for you here if you want to call it that. I needed the absolute cheapest headers possible for this car because they're not going to be in there that long. Our whole plan of this car is to go turbo, but I just wanted to compare carburetor to Sniper with as little variables as possible, and the way to do that was just naturally aspirated, nothing real crazy. Problem is, it's hard to find headers that fit this Nova. So let's take a quick look. So you can see here that steering box is super close, really in the way. This control arm is really in the way. The cross member over here, not so much in the way, other than the control arm was in the way of the stock truck manifolds I tried to use on here. So because of that, I was on the hunt for the cheapest headers possible that would fit this engine and this car. All of my searching led me to O'Reilly's that had these headers for $240. And where the hack comes in is O'Reilly's will give you $10 for every core battery that you take to them. They'll let you do up to 3 a day. I had a pile of batteries sitting around here. So over the course of about 2 weeks, I kept taking batteries in when I had time, getting the gift cards. And if you order online, I got free shipping on these and got them the next day. In less than 24 hours, I ordered these headers and they were sitting here. So they'll let you use 3 gift cards online. So that's $90 plus 40% off for buying online. Made it like $115 or something for these headers. Because, they're going to be on the car for like 2 weeks and then it's going turbo. So let's get these things open and see if they fit. These things look pretty decent for the money. Flange is pretty thick, so that's nice. Reasonable, no weld in the way or anything like that. So for the money, pretty awesome. Now let's see if they fit. Well, I guess I kind of had high hopes, but you can see it hits the steering box. I think we can probably dent that tube and make it fit. And if you've ever watched early episodes of Engine Masters, they tested denting headers to make them fit. Doesn't affect your horsepower. So that's what we're probably going to do. Let's try the other side. Let's try the other side real quick. All right, well that fits pretty decent. We got plenty of clearance here. Plenty of clearance here around the control arm. Everything's looking pretty good. I'm just holding it because I didn't tighten the bolts. It's just sitting there. I think those are going to work. All right, so we got in there with a hammer. Just made a little bit of clearance. Should be pretty good. Got them both bolted up here. So now go under and test fit the X pipe we have and see if it's going to work. All right, so let's talk about fit here. We're going to have to get a little creative right there, but not too bad. A little 45-degree bend, and then we're going to have to change the size because this looks like it's 2-inch coming out of the header, and I believe that's 2.5 there. I haven't measured yet, but that's what it looks like. But as far as lining up goes, reasonably close there, reasonably close here, so we can make that work. We got good fit. Let's go around the back side. We got good fit around the transmission cross member. And still got some centering to do and things, but you know, just a quick mock up here. So a good fit there by the drive shaft and come back here. And then we got room for mufflers here. I haven't decided if it's going to get mufflers or not because it's just going to be such a short-term thing. Might just rock the X pipe and call it good there. Definitely not going to run it without an X pipe because I can't stand the way that sounds, and anybody that disagrees with that, I don't understand you. So anyway, next we got to worry about fuel pump. So anybody that saw the first video on this car, I mentioned something about this fuel cell being kind of a thorn in my side. You know, they hacked a big hole in the trunk floor, which I'll have to fix, but they also cut out this fuel tank support bracket, which if you look on this side, you can see the whole thing there. That's how it's supposed to look. You know, this thing probably ran like 11s or something. It really wasn't that fast. There was no need for a fuel cell. It could have run the stock tank and been fine. I'm going to run a Tanks Inc. tank in it with an in-tank pump that's good for like 900 horsepower. So I have that bracket to put back in there, and we'll do that when it comes time to get rid of the fuel cell and put the tank in. But when it's carbureted, it's just going to run like this with the fuel cell. So I got to figure out mounting the tank, or mounting the pump. So let's see if I can get some of your input here. So what we got is this electric fuel pump. It was free, so that's why I'm running it. Because, again, it's going to make a couple passes down the drag strip, and it's going to make a couple pulls on the dyno, and that's it. But one thing to note about any kind of electric pump, it needs to be lower than the fuel level in the tank. So we're a little limited on where we can mount this thing, and the problem I'm running into, I don't know if you can see it, but the mounting feet really just don't have a good place to go. So if any of you have ideas, put it down in the comments. Hopefully you comment before I get to mounting this thing and have a better idea than I do. So I'll keep an eye on the comments while I'm making this video and see what we get. But anyway, give me a few minutes and I'm going to work on this and see what we come up with. All right, so one of y'all was pretty quick down in the comments before I committed to mounting this thing somewhere. Came up with this idea. Normally, I would not be into something like this. This is self-tapping screws, hanging down from the bumper a little bit. Not excited at all, but it was simple. It puts the pump in the exact place I need it, and it's going to get the job done for a couple dyno runs and a couple passes down the track. So one thing you got to understand about why this pump needs to be where it is. Electric pumps do not pull fuel very well. They push fuel. And you need to mount the pump lower than the level of fuel in the tank so the siphon action can feed the pump. And then the pump, you want it as close to the tank as you can so it's pushing the whole way to the engine and not pulling from the tank at all. Another reason for this mounting location is a bit specific to this issue right now. and that is NHRA does not allow more than 12 inches of rubber fuel line if it's not one of their approved vendors. In this situation, I don't want to spend that kind of money to make 3 passes down the track. I have the proper stuff for the fuel injection, so I could run rubber hose for the entire length of the car twice if I wanted to. But just in this case, I need all these runs to be as short as they can be. I'm going to run aluminum hardline everywhere I possibly can. And then that hardline is going to get reused for the fuel injection also. So just a heads up on kind of why this had to be done the way it was. So, don't at me, whatever, for real, whatever the kids are saying these days. Anyway, just making shit happen here. So, but we're tied up right now. I'm waiting on some little nitpicky parts to be able to keep going. So we'll be back at this. It'll be a day or two, and we'll be back. All right, fuel pump mounted and plumbed. I got a hard line coming around all the way to the front. I'm going to switch sides over to here. Oh, we're going to be working on exhaust next. Saw just got done cutting. We switched around to this side of the frame because NHRA has rules about crossing by the flywheel. This way it's protected, even though I don't think this whole 250 horsepower is ever going to throw a flywheel. But now that we got that, let's get this exhaust handled. All right, so we got the X pipe up in there. Just held up with some bungee cords. They're doing a pretty decent job of holding it in place though. And kind of assess what we got going on here. So we got the header comes down. And I think what I'm gonna have to do, because this hangs down so far, I think we're gonna have to cut this up here and put the 45 in there and then weld this back on to the 45 to make this side work. This side will be a little easier because I think we can just shorten this up a little bit, put the 45 on the end and go into there. But this pipe being 2 1/4 and this being 3 inch, I'm gonna have to expand that and figure something out there. I have an idea, but I don't know if it's gonna work. But we'll find out. Let's see. Well, if you look back a little bit in the videos, there's one I did with this ball bearing showing you how to expand a pipe to make a rounded flange. I'm going to try it to see if we can get big enough for that 3 inch exhaust. This is only a 2 1/2 inch ball, so I don't think it's going to go enough. But let's see how close it gets, and then if I have to, I'll order a 3 inch ball bearing. Yeah, we're definitely going to need a bigger ball. But luckily stuff comes from the Amazon pretty quick, so we'll get one coming, get this knocked out. Alright, somehow I lost audio on this clip, but you can see I'm basically just using a 3 inch ball bearing this time with the same process, flaring it a little bit more, and it really came out perfect. It fits super snug in the V-band, in the little recess, so it can be welded nice. Alright, so you saw I got a little elbow welded on there with the V-band. We're all set on one side. Now, I'm going to go ahead and knock out this other side real quick. You've seen one, you don't need to see the other. And we're going to look closer to firing this thing up. Alright, so after a little really half-assed wiring, just tightening up some hose clamps and stuff like that from the fuel line you saw, we are ready to fire this thing up. Alright, fire in the hole. Well, I thought we were ready to go racing. That's pretty good for a carburetor that's been sitting for a couple years now. Let's try one more time. think we're going to end it off right here. Got a handful of things to do to get transmission working and stuff like that. The flywheel or the torque converter isn't even bolted to the flex plate right now. We got to do TV cable, we got to do shifter, dipstick tube, all that stuff, which is all showing up now. But, you know, this video is long enough. I'll let y'all go. I really appreciate y'all hanging around, subscribing, liking, all the watching. And be sure to stick around for the next one. This thing's definitely moving under its own power. As long as the transmission's good. Hopefully I told you the story about that. If not, I'll tell you in the next one. See you later.